Hello everyone, welcome back to the LightBringers, an episode of the LightBringers, because I'm not going to say the numbers anymore, because normally I'm wrong. So, it's the post-guild chat show, where we just had a lot of information, as well as water bottles thrown at our faces. We're going to talk about it right now, and I hope you are very, very well and enjoying your day. We're still going to have the cameras on the left-hand side if you're watching audibly. No, if you're watching audibly, you can't do that. If you're watching on YouTube and Twitch VOD, whatever. Anyway, that was a good podcast, wasn't it, everyone?
It was really good, yeah.
Excellent.
I guess I'll see you next week, everybody.
There we go. Well done. Well done. Good job. Yes, so we just had the Elementalist, the Warrior, and the Revenant elite specs. And that one took a lot longer than the previous three, for some very, very good reasons that we'll get into. For a start, Elementalist always takes double the time because it's got 20 abilities just on the weapons alone because they switch achievements. And then just because, you know, I think, you know, the Warrior just had so much to it. And then the Revenant technically had two legends in one. So it was like, I feel like they didn't do themselves favors by piling all of these specs into one show.
Yeah, this could have been a weekly thing.
Yeah, this could have been one every day. And I think they probably maybe, I mean, you know, everyone knows this can be on a Friday, I guess. They probably, I don't know. But I think maybe recording these in the future, like if they're going to be that long, could be quite fun. But also it's nice to see their interactions as they kind of go through.
Though. Like the first three specs for the other beta was like simple, everything was kind of simple and straightforward. Yeah. And then it was just a jump to this one.
It's like they grouped them purposefully, but in ways that maybe made it extra long today. Like the first set, you know, oh yeah, all the classes that have fun, fast-paced mobility. And then this second set of three, they're just like the classes that just have, there's just so much happening. Just everything's happening in all of them.
The final three are literally going to be like, you are a dev. You get the dev tools. You have to learn how to like mod things. And they're like, okay, so we're going to teach you some JavaScript.
I'm scared for NG now. I'm like, my main class is lost. What am I going to have to do? And what is it going to be for a start? Because I got no idea.
Well, you're going to be a warrior main now because you're basically a warrior NG.
Yeah, true. I kind of liked a lot of what Warrior brought. Let's go through the actual guild chat itself. So general feelings, and also chat, you can join in with this as well. Post guild chat, you're like, oh, was that overwhelming? Was it not overwhelming? Was it like, oh, I'm excited? No, don't have to talk about every single class and everything, but slightly general feels or vibe. I don't say that.
The vibe check. We're doing a vibe check.
Yes.
My vibe check is that I'm excited and concerned.
Okay.
That is where I'm at right now.
We'll go into that more in a bit. So Boots is concerned and also excited. Who wants to go next?
I'm not so much concerned, and I would love to talk with you, Boots, about your concerns as well. We'll get into that. But for me, I feel kind of like I'm in a fog. I don't exactly know what to feel right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was a little bit of like, okay, so that's interesting. Like when looking at each spec, it's like there are good things about this and like really weird things that I don't think should have happened or I would have liked to have seen personally. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag right now.
So mixed bag vibe from Crave.
My vibe is good. It's strong and it's a powerful vibe. And I feel I'm very excited about these classes. The thing that's funny to me is that I think that these three, to me, thematically, just looking at them, are so fun and interesting and even more layered than I thought. But from a technical standpoint, I agree with you, Kroof, in that the fog is kind of real for me because it felt like there's so much with each of these classes that just from what we could get in the time that we had, I don't really have a strong technical understanding of exactly what I'm going to want to do with them and how. And there's some spots, especially for me, I don't know if my brain just kind of drifted off because I was thinking about how cool it is to have a gun on a saber. I don't know. But like in that one in particular, I felt like there were some gaps where I'm like, So I know that I use this thing, and there's a dragon stance, and dragon stance take a long time. But how you get from A to B, I was like, I'm not totally sure.
And you do 400,000 damage to a golem. That's
Okay.
Yeah,
Into
the big deeps really did sell it for me. But
how long did it take to wait? How long did it take to charge up that strike? By the way, was it like around 4 or 5 seconds?
I think
it's like a long time.
Okay, so 350,000 divided by 5. That's 70k DPS, guys.
Yeah.
70k DPS.
Well, let's talk about
5
that.
seconds in Guild Wars 2 is so long.
It is long. Let's talk about that when we get to it. So the vibe, the powerful also bit of confusion in there, but like excitement. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of the words. I think I'm a mixture of all of you. I'm an elementalist. I'm on catalyst right now of all the things because
we are all
I feel like confusion, power. Missing links between like how the hell am I going to do all these things? There's everything like literally spinning around like the catalyst ability free, and I'm waiting for them all to all come to all be joined together so I can throw them out and be like, I understand this fucking thing, because that was a big guild chat. That was reminiscent. That reminded me of the old one where everything was being thrown at us in like a day for 8 hours during half once. But it doesn't mean it's bad, because guess what, people? Information is better than no information, and so is communication. Because communication has been very good. It's not even been very good. It's been the best it's ever been. It's been so good. The DirectX article was ridiculous. I didn't need to know that information, but I have it. I don't care. I was just like, I could have done with like the end bit and the beginning bit for me personally. But tech peeps, they love that stuff. I mean, I'm a tech person as well, but still there was so much. There was graphs, there was loads of stuff. There was just loads of good information, which I think was great. And they've had all of this stuff, and that's what it's about now. It's about giving us that information and then us reaching our own ideas and coming up with videos and speculation and reaction, and then getting to play it, producing even more content around that stuff, talking about how our feelings, our thoughts, experiences during the beta, during the DX stuff, during the Alliance stuff, and then putting that information back to them so they can make our expansion epic. Does that sound pretty good to everyone? It sounds pretty damn good to me. And like, I've seen absolutely no drawbacks other than maybe some of the stuff we saw today. But again, like I said, that's what betas are for. And it's probably like, I haven't got hands on it. There's just some stuff which I was like, not sure. A bit like what Kruth was saying. I think that's very, very good to like be very aware of how powerful some of this stuff can be in the different game modes that we do enjoy. Because I think the reason I like this mix of people is because we do play very different modes, but World v World, PvP and PvE, and obviously there's different modes within PvE as I continue to talk.
Roleplay.
And roleplay, yeah. I mean,
yeah, I'm an RPer.
Yeah, I only raid while role playing, so I only do in-character immersive raids, and that's my jam. So
I love it. I
roleplay a build maker.
Love making builds, and this is the exciting part of an expansion. So let's go on to the first elite specialization. Oh, good lord! Which was the Revenants. So, in terms of like your predictions for this, was this kind of like, it was going to be 2 legends in one, and like you saw it and you were like, oh yeah, cool, that's kind of what I predicted. And is this initial thoughts on this? How well did it kind of go across with you? Not thinking about the traits or anything, but just like the basic mechanics of what this is. Essentially 2 legends in one, switching between potentially a damage / supportive kind of build, I guess I'm gonna say, and being able to maybe even spec into those in more specific ways as well. I don't know. It's like, what did you think about this? Just the mechanics of it, not the traits. Traits later.
So when I first heard that there was 2 legends, I thought, you'd be able to flip between the 2 skills, sets of skills. But I didn't think that they would be doing individual flips. I didn't think that they'd be doing each skill flips individually when you use it. So it's a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And as he was explaining it, it seemed like it would be difficult to use and maybe not very intuitive and not very fun. But then as soon as he mentioned the F2 ability, which flips all of them again, that kind of brought it more together. It kind of like, yeah, it kind of showed me how versatile and how you could use this to your advantage in different situations. So like you could go full offensive, and instead of you press all your buttons, and then instead of having all your defensive abilities up, you just press the F2, use all your offensive stuff again. You could be full defensive in the same way, or you could do an ebb and flow kind of situation, which I think is what they designed the spec to be, and that is interesting. The dodge is another story altogether, and I think we could all talk about that later.
It's funny that you say ebb and flow when this isn't the class with flow in it. I just like, oh, that's quite funny. That would have been
Well,
good.
from like a design, from the way
know
you
what you
actually
mean.
say it,
Yeah.
I agree with that. That it has this kind of, yes, like back and forth, ebb and flow, whatever you would pair with it. And it is funny because I was expecting both of the spirits in this one. So I think because I got that impression from the trailer where they said, you'll be using abilities from both. But I assumed they would do something more, I guess, traditional in the sense that the flair of either of the spirits would just kind of be in there, and it wouldn't necessarily be like you had two entire, like spirit kits that you were using. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. But it did almost immediately raise those questions for me, like we were talking about live, Are you supposed to do kind of a mix of both? How do you excel at one thing? So that little flip key, I think, is really the pivotal hinge of this entire class for me. And that's the moment where, Boots, like you were saying, it really clicked. And it made my brain go from like, wait, I do like a good like mix class that, kind of does a little bit of everything. But when I saw that, it's kind of like that old game. I don't know if anybody remembers this game, where you had all of these, you had like a red and a blue board, actually, I think, and all these little like character faces.
Yep.
And you had to, you know what I
Match
mean?
the
It's
faces.
like matching the
Guess
character
who?
face. Yes. So for me, it was like that moment when you take an entire row and go like click, 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 click,
It's a
click,
pretty
all
popular
the way
game
down
around the
row
world,
and
bro.
like flip them all and then flip them all back up.
It's a
My
great
brain was immediately happy, and I was just like, oh, I do really like the idea of this. And it's so clever. It's clever to sandwich in this flexibility for a class into one thing with this kind of mechanic. I think people have fun with it.
Okay.
Well, my predictions were, yes, we'd have some aspect of two spirits. I would have preferred to have seen them if they were their own individual legends to allow for that creativity. If you want to go hybrid, you take both of the legends. If you want to go a bit more support, you take one of them, more damage to the other. So seeing all of this, my initial and even continued feeling is like, this is going to be really clunky, even with that F2, because you have to take into account the cooldowns of those skills. So you're going to have that. You're going to press the button. They have 10-second cooldowns or greater. So then if you want to go back into those other skills, you have to swap and keep using them.
On top of it, though, you're going to be having to swap to your other
The
legend
legend.
anyway, just for energy management, right? Like,
So-
because you're not going to be able to have enough energy unless you get out of this whole thing altogether
Yeah.
every once in a while.
And even with Revenant, I almost was like, this is almost like Weaver in a sense, where you have two sets of utility skills on one legend, and then your other set of utility skills on another legend with a weapon swap. So you're getting a total of 2,
Did they mention
5, 10, 15, 20,
Yeah.
25 skills, something like that?
Did they mention whether or not that F2 ability counts as a legend swap?
No.
I
don't
think
think
so.
It didn't seem like it did. No, it seemed like it just essentially functions as a reset. It flips everything to the opposite, right?
Yeah. It might have to.
And even with the flip, I cannot really. It's weird because Guild Wars 2's combat is so hectic. And so I imagine that this F2 will just flip over all of those skills regardless of, where they are at. So if only one skill is like blue, that will flip over to red and everyone else will go to blue. So there's going to be like this mix matched utility bar if you're not using each skill in sequence.
So I could tell you my first concern about this. It's the F2 skill, is like, you know how you have trade-offs. So you have the F2 skill instead of the regular Revenant F2. But this F2 skill, all it does is refresh your dodge roll a little bit. It gives you 50 energy, 50 endurance, and then swaps your legends. But that means that half of its functionality is gone if you're not using the dual legend. All the other elite specs have stuff that help you out as their F abilities, even if you don't use like the Renegade Legend, or if you don't use the Herald. But if you want to go core, for example, but it's like half of its functionality is gone if you're not using Arca, whatever his name is, and Saint Victor.
Morris, yeah.
Yeah.
Arca, whatever the name is, or
Arca something.
Yeah.
Arkham Asylum.
Archosaurus Rex.
Yeah. So that is my first concern.
I think the whole legend inside, two legends inside a legend. Wow, that sounded like something else, and my mind's gone there for a second.
Oh boy.
We're not interested in the fan fiction you're writing.
Yeah,
like
sorry. I started writing something on the side. It's just, I don't know.
I mean, don't draw Shiro into this, bro.
I was about to say two legends and something else, but anyway, I like essentially what you're doing inside. Good lord, it's just everywhere. What you're doing inside of this one legend is swapping legends, because because when you switch legends, all your utilities flip over. So what you're doing is you're just switching individual things. So it's the same mechanic. You've just got an extra legend. The thing is you're managing these individual utilities, which is very cool. But is quite elementalist almost to a degree, and it takes over it takes that gameplay a bit further, which is what kind of Kroof is saying, where it becomes much more. I guess intricate is one of the words I would use, but it's very. There's a lot of thought here. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm like thinking, okay, if I'm going to go damage, I want to flip all these things back over, and I'm not going to be thinking about support other than if I need a little bit of regen or vigor or stability or a tiny bit of, something to survive. And then knowing about those rotations in those abilities in this one legend is very important. Then flipping back to my other legend and thinking, okay, now I can actually probably go for more offense in the other legend, even if I in an offensive build, rather than going for a more defensive legend, say, like we've got the Great Dwarf there for stability and everything else. We might not need that if we're going very offensive, though. We can go assassin stance, go with this, and my support maybe for myself comes from some of these trade lines. So I feel like with this, they've actually gone this could be, and I'm talking more of a PvP.
As an Ellie now. It's as complicated as an Ellie now, maybe slightly more because your buttons are in different places to use.
Do you feel like it's more so? Right, okay. Do you think it's more so than Catalyst?
It's not quite as, it's not the same, it's still less skills than an Ellie with 3 conjure weapons or an engineer with 4 kits.
Kits are very specific, I guess, as well, yeah.
It is interesting. Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's also because I wanted it to be 2 separate legends. I don't know. I feel like they should have created this as 2 separate legends to allow.
And you could only choose one of them, or you could choose both of them.
You could choose both of them if you wanted, because you're just going to be.
What would you do would trait lines then be like maybe one trait line specifically in a row would favor one legend over the other? Do you mean, Kroof? Maybe.
Yeah, something like that. One top line is like Arkham, middle line is Saint Victor, and a bottom one is a bit mixture.
Or could be both
of all of them.
Yeah. That actually, I kind of like that idea. Yeah.
Then you'd have to design a different elite spec. Like this is half. This has half, if not 75% of the functionality of this elite spec is the interaction between the two.
The core of the flipping is really what has created this elite spec.
Yeah, and I mean there's kind of a twofold thing with this for me, because on one hand, I like a class that even just changes up the way that you approach how you engage with a rotation, a mechanic, right? I think while rotations are very much a thing in Guild Wars 2, obviously, I mean, if you're trying to optimize or things like that, there are probably going to be very specific things that you do and a specific way you hit your buttons to get the big numbers. But there's a bit of a looseness to Guild Wars 2 as well, in which a lot of times you can kind of improvise on the fly as you go and just whack some stuff. and go ham, and you're probably still going to be okay for the most part. So having something that provides a different structure of gameplay and makes you engage even with your skills in a different way, I think is still worthwhile, because sometimes, even as silly as it sounds, having a different pattern and specific thing I do to hit my keys makes it feel new and shiny to me.
Yeah.
But all of that to say, I do agree that it feels maybe a little strange that these two just, they like do and don't seem to interact that much, in a sense, right? It's like they
Yeah.
could have almost been completely separate skills, where you literally could just choose whether or not you wanted to have the offensive ones or the supportive ones on your bar. Because if you are specifically building to one spec or the other, right? But I'm actually really interested in the hybrid builds for this, possibly. But if you are building to one extreme or the other, I mean, you're basically fishing for that anyway, right? So you're going to be trying to flip those over to just use red or just use blue. So in that sense, I do agree with you, Kroof, in that I feel like it creates this extra step to just accomplish playing with the skills that you are probably just going to be focusing. But I do still like it. It just, it would be interesting to see it have something, I don't know. I don't know how they would do this. It'd be far too complicated. But something where, you have 2 blue, 3 red, and you flip them and you get some kind of bonus because of, having more of your offensive flipped or supportive, or
I matched
where
my
that
set.
interaction. Yeah, like something where that interaction between flipping them actually did play into it, as opposed to just being like a neat little fun thing.
That'd be cool. Yeah, like if you had a trait, Grandmaster trait that said, if when you press F2 and flip, you flip they all go red from all blue, you get some sort of bonus or something. That'd be interesting. I wanted to say that before we continue,
Go ahead.
this is like there's 0 condies on this spec, right? This is not a condi spec.
One packet of torment.
Where was it? I didn't see
on
it.
the elite. On the elite for the spear.
Okay, so yeah, this is not a condi spec.
No.
This is all of it is there. Yeah, they didn't hedge their bets and put a condi line in there somewhere. This is straight up power or healing all the way.
Though Chill has interesting application with Malix's trait line, corruption, with Chill applying torment. So you could have some like Chill torment build.
True. But isn't there a cooldown on that?
No cooldown.
There's no cooldown on that. Interesting.
Mm.
You're gonna have to forgive me. There is a little bit of noise, as you can currently hear. So I'm gonna kind of give you a question, and you're gonna have to kind of roll through it for a little bit while I scream expletives to someone next door for a moment. Good Lord, Jesus Christ! Why?
What do you guys think of the dodge roll?
There you go.
Oh
Go with
yeah.
the other 25% of the entire design of this spec.
You're doing great, Jeb. Hang in there.
Good Lord. Yes, talk about the one single vigor dodge.
So it sounds like a very large mosquito.
It's just I just didn't realize again that this is happening today. Hopefully it'll stop soon. But anyway, talk about the dodge roll. How you feel about that? How do you feel about going from having 2 dodges to 1 dodge? But also there is like ways to augment this. Oh, not augment. Damn it! I say augment a lot.
You can't say augment because that's something else.
No more.
To Bennett to empower. There you go.
Embiggen.
Yeah, I like that. All those words, a dodge. So I think it's okay. Actually, it looks like it stopped for a second, so I'm going to talk for a minute. Jesus Christ, that's annoying. I'm sorry. Yeah, I actually don't think it's too bad. One thing I want to know is whether or not, like I said during the cast, I want to know whether or not you can go, is the verticality of it, because it looks like you can aim it, right? I didn't actually. I'm going to try and find the footage of it.
Yeah, you could like go around, like kind of like we were saying, Doomfist from Overwatch. You could like travel around wherever you want and then land it when it finally finishes. Do you know if you could end it early? Did they say?
Probably not.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you can.
I
don't think we will.
It and it goes.
Yeah. And then you have that duration of time to get positioned to the place you want to be positioned in.
Is there a max range?
There's got
for the duration.
I know, but like, what is that? How far can you go?
Well, for the duration, does movement speed impact this? Like, if you have super
good question.
Do you go
Mm.
faster if you have swiftness?
Probably
Do you go faster?
Exactly.
not, because dodge rolls ignore that anyway, right?
But this isn't
Oh,
necessarily a dodge. It's a movement while you just like
This is
leave
the
the game
thing.
for a minute.
true.
This is the
you
thing.
just peace out for a second, get yourself a cup of tea,
They didn't
come
say
back.
anything.
Yeah, my guess would be that it would relatively be constricted by the same kind of things like a dodge roll, in the sense that, what you've got is what you've got. I think it'd be really fun if it had interplay with stuff like quickness, though, because that would definitely, I mean, especially with you only getting that one in that instant, right? It feels like that would give it even more usefulness. I mean, just from a standpoint, though, of shaking up the class and doing something really neat, I love this. I think it's very cool. I mean, playing it will probably feel really, really great. I'm glad that they didn't do something like a ground targeted, almost like is it F2 on Dragon Hunter, where you do like the Wings of Faith leapy thing. I'm glad they didn't do something like that. I actually really love that it does like lift you up, and then you can kind of, I mean, Doomfist hover is the best way to put it, I think. Like hover over to where you want to be, because I was worried that it wouldn't have the same kind of invuln as dodge roll, but it seems like with this it does, and I think that really gives you kind of a fun thing to work with. And it also makes me curious, if I don't play much PvP, right? But I wonder if enemies will be able to tell where you're going to drop down, or if it's something where when you go up, everybody just hopes you don't wreck their shit. Is what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I think he said that there was if for the offensive one, I think he said that there was a big thing that showed where they're
A
landing.
tell, okay.
In the trailer as well, it does display a red ring from the enemy's perspective.
Yeah, but that
Okay.
says, but that's also kind of annoying too, because it also shows it from your personal perspective, and
Well,
it's
You'll
it's
need to
kind-
know where you're landing, I guess.
I guess, but make it green maybe for yourself.
It's
Like they've been
yellow.
doing that a lot recently.
It's
They
not
do
red.
like
I thought it was yellowish.
it was reddish yellow.
I'm trying to find it. If anyone
Orange
finds
hues
it,
of
Yeah.
various
Orange
sorts.
hue.
if anyone does
I guess
find
green
it,
would be
let me know.
better. I'm guessing that you won't see this if an ally Vindicator does it. Like that really won't be useful to you. It's mostly just like for you and the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I like
yeah.
it. I like it. I do also like, just from, I guess, a thematic standpoint with this class and the lore of this class, I think it works to have these two factions in one character. Not only because I think these two, the Lexans and the Kurziks, have just, since Guild Wars 1, right, been this kind of opposition force, but one of the things that I thought was really interesting was the fact that so the current age in the Canthan calendar, which is the sort of age of the dragon that we have right now, the era of the dragon, actually began with it was marked and began because of a peace between the Luxan and Kurzik. And then over time, it's, crumbled, and obviously the two factions came into huge antagonism with one another. Although, like, binding together to do something like take down Shiro, I think led towards steps of peace. And it makes me really curious if, just thematically as well, they wanted to bring together this concept of these two opposing factions, coming together as one for possibly the end of the dragon's narrative. So, I mean, from those standpoints, I think it works really well, and the abilities are fun and flashy. I am curious just to see how it feels to play it, and how strong the support is on its own, how strong the damage is on its own. If something like a true hybrid build would have, I think, good value, and how that flow feels juggling between them, I think that'll really make it for me, or break it maybe, but hopefully make it.
This is
I guess-
definitely like just looking over it and looking at the dodge, like that is a completely new thing. Like that is not targeted at all. That's him moving the character around like completely. It's not a target. Like I'm just playing it on the stream, and it's very good because it's almost just like pressing an ability and almost just you're aiming as you go, and so it's very much like I think it's very much like Doomfist. I'm trying to remember if the map comes out and you target. I can't remember.
You know what I think it is?
Able to change
cool.
your layer, not
I
layers.
don't think you're going to be able to change elevation. You know
That's
why?
Elevation.
I don't know.
You know why? I think you're not going to be able to, because the way I think it's coded, based on what it looks like, is that the person going up into the air is not actually your person going up into the air. That's just an animation. But your entity is actually still on the ground, walking around, invisible and invulnerable.
It's like Sword 3 on Revenant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's walking along on the ground, maybe you could jump too. I doubt it though. But,
Could be, but
if it's
also
walking along the ground, you won't be able to
I
go up
want
things.
it to be that because that would be so good. Because
Could you
then you
imagine,
could just
like, on a
jump on
point?
people.
Like
It would
on
be amazing.
Kylo, you're on the point and then someone's shooting you from the rafters and you just jump up there and you slam down.
That's
Like
what I'm
that would be
talking
so
about, man.
cool.
It
But
would
I
be
agree,
good.
it's probably like that.
I mean,
Talking a
it,
little bit about the jump and maybe going into like one of the traits, it was called Leviathan.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And I was like, I guess Leviathan having that height, I wonder if this was a different legend at first, where you really like a Leviathan like jumping. It was very
You go under the
Bermuda.
ground.
Yeah. So I was like, oh. And they didn't have the art either. So I was like, oh, maybe we've seen some
I
changes.
think that's just they just don't have the art. I think because there was a couple of times where they didn't.
These are my deep conspiracy theories.
It definitely seems like a few of these elite specs have changed a couple of times over their run of being designed.
I would say
Yeah, I
that
mean-
that's definitely a thing. Yeah,
I think that's how it works a lot of the time, you know?
Yeah.
They-
Yeah.
absolutely.
Just through the process of trial and error, erroring different things, or even seeing how other classes are unfolding, adjusting, how the
And
story
also
or
maybe-
narrative is changing.
Also, maybe after this beta, they'll change again.
Yeah. Did any I guess we really didn't talk about the Greatsword, the new weapon.
We can talk about that now.
Sure.
There's no we can talk about I think talking about each one specifically and then going over them
Just
randomly.
for the
then
final
that'd be
dodge part, so Mirage has told us that sometimes it could be okay, right? If you have only one dodge.
Mhm.
So hopefully that is the same with this particular.
Depending on what it
class.
does, yeah. I mean, if they'd had more than one, I think that we probably would have asked for it to be heavily adjusted because it's pretty strong at different points in time. Okay, Greatsword. How do we feel about you know what I was feeling about the weapons specifically in this? I was like, oh yeah, they've got weapons as well. I was just like, it's very much
Yeah.
like a side thing. But like there was a few skills in here, so it's a great sword for Revenant if you don't know. And it feels like it's offensive, but there's some very defensive stuff with this as well. So what are the general thoughts on this? What is it? Was it like, oh, this looks really fun and cool? Is it like, fits the specs, fit the mechanic? What's going on? Because the utilities flip over. What's going on with the Greatsword? You like it?
I'm liking the Greatsword.
Mhm.
It feels. Now I will say it does feel very much like the the Reaper Greatsword with a
Yes.
lot of
Mixed.
chill application.
Mixed with the Ranger Greatsword on the back end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it is smart for any two-handed weapon to at least have some defensive mechanic, that being an evasion or some short block, just because you are going to be in melee combat. But some of the skills were really cool, especially the 5th skill. It had a really awesome name. I cannot remember it. But having this random aspect of like the mists opening up and exploding around you, I really enjoy those skills. And I enjoy, especially 5th skills, having a wow animation and a wow spell effect to really feel like, oh, this is the weapon.
Totally agree. I really liked that. I think the 5th of the abilities is what really sold it for me. Do I necessarily feel like the Greatsword to me is an iconic part of this class? Not
Speak on it.
really. I mean, you know what I mean? It makes sense because I think that everybody for so long has been like, why in the world doesn't Revenant have a Greatsword? I mean, when you just think about it and when you think about Ritlock and stuff, it seems like if you're looking for the edgiest thing to pair with the edgiest class, you would put a Greatsword all up in there. And yeah, I don't know if thematically for me, I think this class sells the Greatsword, if that makes sense. I like the abilities, but it almost seems like this would have been the opportunity for Spear. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
honestly.
Uh-oh.
Because one of your legends literally uses Spear,
Yeah.
and it would have been really neat if, like,
Combo.
I don't know, you could have used both of their different weapons and, weapon swap between them or something, and even had that reflect something with the abilities, or have some cool interplay if you used their historic weapons and got a spear for it. So something like that feels like thematically it would have tied more coherently, but I do think Greatsword was a logical choice for Revenant, and I think the abilities look good, and I think they play well with both of the different styles. So it's not like I really have a problem with it. I just think maybe there could have been a more iconic weapon imagery, if that makes sense.
Now that you say it, this feels like a core weapon for Revenant that they designed, because with Glint and with Kala, the weapon skills reflected that elite spec very well. With Kala, like you shoot arrows through a portal. With this greatsword, you're kind of just using very core Revenant animations and effects. So it doesn't really scream like this is a part of that elite spec. So, but I would really love if core Revenant got more weapons, but it's nice to see a greatsword finally.
Yeah.
Okay. I like some of the animations. I agree. The fifth skill. Oh, damn it! You just called it. No, go back. Go back. It's called Eternity's Requiem. There we go. So while your greatsword opening holes in the mists that deal damage. Ooh, so you could even be people from the mists sending damage, which is very cool. It's very mysterious, mystical.
Pops out.
It's very mysterious.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Come on. We're there, surely. But yeah, I like the names of the abilities, even just like the first ability on the greatsword, Mist Swing. I was just like, yeah, cool. Let's go with the blandness of that. That works for me. There's some pretty. What was it about the fourth skill? It's a
ranger block.
Yeah, isn't it
well.
like if you block, the damage incoming gets sent back out. The more damage you block, right? So I'm trying to find this very unique, because it is a very unique ability. Here we go. Imperial Guard. There we go. Block incoming attacks for a prolonged duration and ready a counter attack that deals increased damage based on the attacks blocked. So it's similar to. Actually, no, maybe it's not. I can't remember, because there's Scepter 2 on Mesmer, which you do a counter attack. There is counter attacks, like you said, Ranger as well, but it's not. I don't know if it's got the increased damage depending on the damage you take. So it would be pretty cool if you're against like a PvE bot.
I don't know if it's like transmuting the damage per se. I just think it will, like, each block that you do, it will just start to stack up the number a little bit higher.
Damage
Which isn't interesting. It's not a counter attack. It's like, well, you can automatically cancel it too.
It calls it a counter attack.
Yeah, it just, the longer you are in it, the more use you get out of it.
Yeah,
it's a strong skill. It's a very strong skill.
It can be, but I think it's very much one of those skills where I feel like it's gonna have like a skill cap, and I kind of like those skills where you're like, you need to know the fight maybe. 12 seconds, but then it's got the 12 seconds.
Damn.
2 seconds.
Can you move while
cast time.
casting it?
Yeah, I think so.
Look.
I think you can walk slowly.
He stood still, if I remember rightly.
My God.
Because he was trying to get
might
the
not
ball
be
to the
Second
thing.
cooldown block.
12 seconds with movement, with a block, increased damage for each attack you block. That's a pretty strong block.
There you go. And he does the block. Damage wasn't. Damage is pretty good. But like, I think that's a very good, like, it's a unique ability. 12 seconds. It depends what you're doing. That could be quite long. It's not actually too bad. I need to try and remember the Ranger block and other blocks. They should be less than that, actually, probably, because that sends the damage back as well. But Revenant staff as well has got that kind of, block and stuff as well. So it's quite cool. It's quite thematic with the Revenant. I like it. I like the animations. They're cool. Reusing of assets, reusing of animations. It's just normal things in games that people do to reduce time in constructing things, and it helps. So why not? If someone's swirling around in a circle with a greatsword, who cares? In all honesty.
So the Ranger block is 15-second cooldown.
Oh, interesting. I reckon they'll increase that then.
Yeah, probably in PvP. It might be a split. Does it say that it's unique per game mode? It probably is.
PvP, it's 30 seconds.
Oh yeah.
The block on the Ranger. Wow, yeah. So yeah, that will definitely get changed. Okay, so I guess sometimes as well we do see that, like we're seeing the PvE cooldowns as well, so it gives us a good base knowledge, like base kind of idea. But hopefully that's a lot bigger. Anyway, great sword. So generally great sword, we're like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we will go on to the general theme and ideas of BladeSworn. I think we'll do it like how they did it, and then we'll come back to the trades if you want, if people are up for that. Because BladeSworn was quite cool. I think actually for me, this is the one spec where I was like, they've already got a sword and they've built onto it and they've got a pistol. This actually felt really unique because it was like, oh, they've kind of got part of this already. How are they gonna transform this into something new, unique, and different to the point where people are just not like pissy and moaning? Because you know what they're like on Reddit. We've seen this week. You know, people are like, oh, we want an elementalist that's a range spec. We don't want a melee spec. Well, why don't you just wait until you see what the flipping build is first?
Call me out, Jebro. Call me out.
Oh, was it
Groove,
you?
I really wish you
Groove.
hadn't posted on Reddit so
Honest.
much. Ugh.
But like, I was just like, you know, we don't even know what it is yet. You know, Revenant Hammer was range. And yes, it is melee and it is range, depending on how you will play it, of course.
We'll get to that later.
We will, yes. But like, what was the general feelings on, we're on BladeSworn right now, of course. General feelings,
BladeSworn.
mechanics, how you felt about it, what it looked like, weapon, all the things. And I'm going to be right back.
Lit.
Oh, bye.
Lit.
Lit. Literally lit and metaphorically lit. I was going in to this, I wasn't necessarily worried about BladeSworn because from the trailer, I was already super excited. I was pumped. I was like, okay, this just animation-wise looks really cool. But actually watching the live stream, seeing all the skills, interactions, and the traits, it's so cool. I actually might start to, maybe not main warrior, but definitely pick up warrior more often with the BladeSworn. So first impressions, when we got everything, all the information, really excited to actually play this next week.
Yeah, I feel the same.
You go first.
No, Boots, you go.
No, please, I insist.
No, Boot.
No, Kroof, it's okay.
I guess I'll go again.
I'll be Kroof now.
Oh shit! You guys have too many O's in your names.
I'm sorry.
Ooh,
We make it very confusing. You're right.
Boots, proof, proof.
You say that also having the same number of O's in your name. Boots. You have too
I don't
many
know what
T's
you're
in your
talking
name,
about.
Boots.
I don't know.
What I was gonna say is that I feel like my commentary about the weapon not being in and of itself iconic for our previous one here is the opposite when it comes to this one. To me, the weapon feels absolutely iconic to this class, and I think the animations and everything with it are so great. And honestly, I am really happy that it is something you have to use. And part of this is because, I mean, yes, there's always that kind of worry, you know, is it going to be good enough to justify always taking that slot? Which I think, especially for like meta builders, becomes a big thing. But for me, one of the things that I've said it before and I'll say it again, that I find most annoying about new elite specs is that oftentimes the iconic weapon they're introduced with, nobody uses ever.
Oh.
And it's like, to me, I don't know. It's like, if you're designing around some sort of new weapon that's getting introduced for that class, I want that weapon to really feel cool to the class. And of course, Guild Wars 2's build flexibility and everything else is part of what makes the game unique. But I was actually really happy that this time around they went, no, you know what? A huge fundamental part of this class features around this massively iconic thematic weapon that we have for it. So that weapon will always be a part of it. And it's also smart from, you know, not having to introduce that weapon for all their classes or have all sorts of models or have, you know, it's smart just to say this is going to be sort of a fixed thing. So I'm excited about it. And I really liked all the abilities. Do I totally feel like I understand from what we saw today how all the stances work and what the abilities in the stances and when it... And not quite, but I know if I hold a button down for a long time, I do a big dick deeps. And so I feel sorry, Jem, if that has to be edited out in the final cut
you've
here.
said shit, I'm pretty sure as well. I'm pretty sure that saying big dick isn't going to do anything apart from just make people think.
I mean,
about
all
that.
shapes and sizes are wonderful, but in this one case, using this one phrase, I'm just saying.
All shapes and sizes accepted.
I
There
feel
we go.
powerful when I whip out my big gun sword and then I explode.
I'm so glad that we could rely on the people identifying as. They don't care. They don't care, chat. They don't care. Anyone, it's okay. We can say big dick damage now, apparently. So.
Period.
You can feel
That's
powerful
the end of my statement.
with this sword. I'm just filth, absolute filth. Highly unexpected.
I'm sorry. I'll clean it up from here on out. Please forgive me.
Very unexpected, as we've known you for so long now. It's just what's going to come next? What's going to happen next? How shocking
Jeff,
are they
much like the elite specs are shaking things up in Guild Wars too, sometimes I too have to shake up my identity and, just go a little wild. So
it's funny because during the podcast, I calm down a hell of a lot. Whereas on my stream, I'm basically swearing the whole time and being very, very inappropriate. So
at 0.5% alcohol content on the kombucha is getting to you.
There's no alcohol in this kombucha. It's just bubbly probiotic tea for a happy gut. That's all it is.
I think it's like 0.5% kombucha. I think.
But I just want to say overall, I think this one looks fun. Do I have a lot of questions about how to play it? And in which case I might want to use X, Y, or Z, or if I think certain trade-offs are worth it, because to me that full power-up really did feel long. And of course the damage potency is really strong on it.
Yes, the damage potency, the big dick potency.
The damage potency on it is very strong. And so I personally feel that it could be a really interesting trade-off. But the amount of times you'll actually get to use that, I'm not totally sure about, between interrupts or even in raids when I was thinking like, oh, that could be a really cool finishing blow, right? Like if towards the end of the fight, it's literally like a DPS threshold that you're trying to reach and you're going, I don't have to worry about whatever mechanics or I've got stab or we've got whatever. And I'm just going to stand here while everybody else is fighting. Like,
I just like the idea. I just like the idea of like, you just down someone in PvP, and then one of his friends comes to try to res him. They start their res, and you're like, you know what? I'm pressing the button now. Have fun trying to res for the next 3 seconds, because right before you're done.
It's good cleave. That's true. I'm just waiting for him to go over the top.
Kind of going off what Rook said, I actually agree. I like that you lose weapon swap. You have to, you have one weapon set that you can customize, but you have to use this profession weapon. And the gun saber really is the new weapon in a sense.
Yeah.
The pistol is kind of an afterthought in a way. It has really interesting mechanics, but it's just an offhand. And Bruce, this is, I think, where we're going to start to, let's go.
I got feelings. I've got feelings about this.
I mean, you are a human being. Feelings are welcome and can be released into the stratosphere of this podcast, Boots. And if as Kroof completes their analysis and thoughts and feelings, then maybe we can come to you after. But Kroof, what else is there that you were?
Oh no, that's good. I was I enjoy it.
Okay, well, Boots, what was the feels, as the kids say nowadays, if they say that?
So,
that was a mighty sigh, my friend. You need to get an echo on that.
What were the feels, as the kids say? Oh, Jeff.
I'm so old now.
I feel
I've got a Zimmer frame and everything.
I feel like, so I think the offhand pistol getting overlooked so much, even in the explanation, is not fair to it. It's not fair in the explanation by CMC. It's not fair to it because it looks like a fun little weapon to use every once in a while. I just like to say that first of all.
Little?
You're really not selling it great either, Boots.
You're not selling
I was over here whipping out my dirtiest vocabulary for the gun saber, and you're saying this neat little fun weapon you might sometimes use.
I like it. On top of that, I am not in agreement. Although I know it's too late now, and this is how it's gonna be.
Wait, what do you mean?
I'm not in agreement that it's a good thing that the profession mechanic is replacing its weapon swap.
Okay, that's fine.
Elaborate.
You're allowed to.
Yeah.
You're allowed to not agree. It's okay.
I know. I'm just.
You're not gonna get.
I feel bad about it though. I just don't
Why?
agree with it though. I.
That's fine. What? Tell us why though. I need a reason.
Because a warrior,
Mm-hmm.
Basically the only positive thing about a warrior up until now is its versatility in its weapon choices.
Mm-hmm.
And the ability to swap between those weapons quickly.
Yeah.
And when you're stuck with one thing, you're stuck with one thing for this elite spec. So that's, I mean, I like, for any kind of elite spec, I like the idea of having versatility within that elite spec too. So like I was talking about with the Legends for Revenant, my concern for that was that the F2 is useless if you don't use that legend, if you don't use that dual legend. And in this case, they're forcing you to use the Gunblade. And I'm sure that's not going to be bad because I'm sure the Gunblade is going to be very strong. And so I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of fun playing this spec. But I have a feeling that because of the trade-off in the elite spec, because they're preemptively saying you could only use this Gunblade, they're going to make the Gunblade very, very strong. And I feel like that's a scary design choice, just based on a few of the things we saw him demonstrate as well.
Was there anything specific that you were concerned about?
No, nothing specific.
But
maybe
to that point,
You mean all of it? Just all of
being
it.
worried. Oh, I guess this is where you said that you were concerned and you had those
one of the
concerns.
concerns. Yeah.
I think it's appropriate to have those concerns when looking at something that you now have to use. And of course, the design philosophy is probably like, because we are restricting their weapons, we have to make this powerful.
Yeah.
But I also think that it would make balancing this in the future, if it does become a problem, possibly easier. Because then you look at this certain, like, you don't have two weapon sets that you have to balance with that new F1, with the new gun saber. You now have to, like, you have these sets where you're like, okay, so this in combination, though, I guess overall, it's the weapon itself that is the strongest, not necessarily the second weapon set. So that might be irrelevant, but
Yeah.
it's easy. It could be maybe a bit easier just to like tone down numbers because it is a solitary weapon.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that would probably bring, the class into balance overall more.
True. But then you'll just be stuck with a balanced weapon that you're forced to play with.
So
Isn't that what we all want?
So in
No,
this,
not really.
and I think this is where I'm a little bit confused, and it might just be because I'm slow, and also just because I've literally had a day today already. But trying to understand the mechanics of like this specific class in its totalitarianism, which is difficult.
I don't know if that's the right word.
I don't know. I don't know if it's the correct word, but in its
Totality is the word you're looking
yes,
for.
definitely not that one.
Totality.
I'm tired. But like, just to get this in my head, and Nick, please just tell me if I'm wrong. That's fine. You have the gunblade mechanic, right? You have you have the different weapons that you have, but when you get into combat, you can only use one weapon set and activate the mechanic, or is it that you?
You're an NG now.
Yeah, right. And then the mechanic goes on top of the skills you have.
Yeah, you're an NG now, except you don't have kits.
But the kit essentially is the thing, right?
You get one kit.
You get one kit.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm kind of right about that. And then there's this other skill called Dragon Trigger, and I've got it up on the screen now. It says prepare to use Dragon Slash. So that's the big, massive, like, spend all your power now ability kind of thing. And you sit still.
This spec, you only get one burst skill.
Yeah.
And it's just the same
They've
skill.
also taken away all your other weapons burst skills.
Well, technically you get 3, because there are 3 different
Fine, but they've
triggers.
also taken away all your other weapons burst skills.
Yeah.
But they've
But
given you...
This is the third elite specialization. I feel like with Warrior in particular, we are going to be going into these territories where because weapons are the big feature with Warrior.
They're running out of them.
I feel like they are
so they're
running
just taking
out.
away weapons.
No, they did take away weapons, but I feel like it is an interesting idea to, maybe not next expansion, but in the future, of course, create new weapons and using this kit idea. We've never had a great axe. We've never had a flail. they can now do these cool things because it is one standard weapon model, and you don't have to go back and create a whole new weapon set. You can have scythes and all of that stuff. Reaper already has it.
Yeah.
So we could be leading into this territory. So for this elite spec for warrior, we are kind of seeing some of these concerns that you're saying, Boots, with like restricting things and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big trade-off, and I'm sure they discussed it a ton, right? I'm sure that when they were trying to figure this out, that was one of the biggest debates. Do I think that as far as from a perspective of, does this change what we expected from Warrior? Yeah, I mean, I think it does. You know, it changes what you kind of fundamentally assume about the class by locking you into this one. And I mean, yes, I think the big thing is whether or not I keep wanting to say gunblade, but no, that's not the gun saber, whether or not it feels truly satisfying to play, I think will be really make or break for this elite spec.
Yeah.
Because, like you're saying, this is like the one thing that you will always have. And so, you know,
and it is now
without
the only thing that you could do.
Yes. So
because
like
it's taken away all your other things.
it has to feel good and it has to play well. And if it does, then I think this class will be fantastic and it looks good. But I agree with you, Jeb, in that this is the one. Don't say you're slow because you're not. You're very intelligent. You're just doing a lot right now. You are very quick and very intelligent. But I too had trouble with. I was like, okay, wait. So then, okay, and then when I go into the stance, I got different options I can do. But if I hold down long time, it does the BDPS.
BDPS.
Yeah, I still
BDDPS, and then if I swap over to the other thing, I've got the pistol. But then if I use these traits, which we're going to talk about later, but I was like, but then, or the elite ability, then I can get ammo back, which affects how fast I do. So it felt to me like I didn't totally understand what was happening with this one.
All the traits focused on the gun saber, did they? Like, it was a large portion of them.
There's the last three traits are all on that final burst thing.
Then you had the middle where it was like gain
thing.
Barrier. Was it barrier? I'm already forgetting.
Yeah, there's gain barrier when you use your final ammunition. We'll talk about that later.
We'll go over that. That's fine.
I would say, what was I gonna say? What did you just say, Rook? Because there's something very interesting you said there that I was trying to think about.
That the weapon has to be satisfying?
Yeah, okay, that's one thing. No, but it was something after that too.
Yeah, you said something that made me think of traits.
That I too am still a little bit confused as to the BDD, the big dick. Because is the entire obviously the general bar is not just the flow bar up to 100, right?
Wait, yeah, why is there flow and ammunition?
So the ammunition thing is flow literally is just flavor. It looks like
ammunition is for your primal burst.
And the flow affects how quickly you're able to go into dragon stance?
So it's still very confusing.
Is it dragon stance?
You have that bar. When you're charging it, those ammunition things go up.
Yes.
And that, I think that's just a counter of how strong you are.
The bullets.
Yeah, I think flow is like a passive just increase when you're in the blade. Ammunition starts to build up when you are using your dragon trigger. And the more you wait, the more bullets you get, the stronger that is.
Flow is just a thing which builds over time. Flow is not like adrenaline. So it replaces the bar, but it's not the same thing.
It's a little confusing though, because it's like it's ammunition, but it's not the same ammunition as they're talking about for ammunition skills.
No.
And I don't think that trait that says you gain barrier when you use your last ammunition is affected by this at all. I don't think you're gonna get barrier. So why call it ammunition? Why make it those bullets? And why? I mean, I understand because it's literally flavor. You're putting bullets in your thing. But it's just making it way too confusing, and it's literally just...
I mean, that's their wording. It's just the way I think he's just got confused as he's been talking about
honestly, amber bullets could have been better, or amber shells.
Bullets. Amber shells.
Shells, shots, you could say something like that.
I like the flow. The flow seems a little bit interesting in this. Like the whole flow mechanic, I like that, because if you know what flow is about being in the moment, being in there, using this force and putting it out there. It's quite good. But I don't know.
Were there any traits that loaded the amber bullets, let's call them, into the gun when you're not pressing that button?
I don't think so.
I don't think I remember any.
So then why even have it there as a visual thing when you're not pressing that button?
I guess.
Let's have a look. Okay, when you press it,
Might be utility. I don't know.
yeah, but don't remember that this isn't essentially that is giving you. So if we're on the stream right now, you're looking, presses the button, and it's your indication of how strong your ability is when you've actually activated the trigger. Because otherwise, you've got no indication of how strong it's going to be. I guess. But I think maybe what they could have done was actually have the bar and the bullets maybe as one kind of thing. They could have put the top of the bullets onto the top of the bar maybe, and the energy could have filtered around or made it look a little bit different. But you still need some kind of indication of how strong that is, because if you press the button, this dragon trigger F2, you still need an indication of how strong the ability is going to be. So if you've been testing, for example, if you hit the 5th bullet, you're going to get 250,000 damage rather than 450,000 damage.
So it's nice that it's big and visible for you when you're doing the skill. I just don't know what's the point of it when you're not doing the skill. Also,
I guess it could exist.
Maybe persist if you fall out. Maybe that's why they're still there.
Maybe that could be something. That could be something.
Could be. Because typically they do hide a lot of UI if it isn't applicable in a certain stance. But if I would agree, if there's no use, I would hide it. Yeah.
If you start walking, will you still have those skills available?
There's a lot that they didn't really test. Like for the Revenant, what if you swap legends? How does he have to? There's some things that we'll get to test out for ourselves for this.
Yeah.
I am a tiny bit confused about like how, because it already has skills for the saber, right? And I'm just like, okay. Is that just like because you've got the F1 and you're just literally in the saber, and then when you're out of combat, then you can. So I'm a tiny bit confused about that. I feel like this is going to become very clear when we get hands on it. There's a lot of this. Yeah. It was like back in the day with Scrapper. It was like it felt really simple, but then like you kind of got.
I do like the mechanic though. Like
I agree.
Yeah.
When we first talked about the idea of a gunslinger for Warrior. And we said, it would be really cool if there was a button you press that like did
the standoff
thing, and a little what's it called again? The circle of plant that rolls by. Tumbleweed.
Oh, tumbleweed.
Wow. Circle plant that tumbles by.
You said the circle of plant that rolls by, and in my head, rather than hearing the word, I just heard bow wow wow.
Yeah, exactly. So this is exactly that, essentially. Only, but you need the adrenaline beforehand.
Well, I think it also really, again, because this is the kind of just big nerd I am, I like looking at the thematic stuff with classes, and for all of the big questions that I have about how this thing just plays, and like what the little technicalities are, and how being in or out of combat affects it, how the swaps affect it, there's a lot of little things that I'm still kind of like everybody said, I need to get my hands on it, right? But I really like the inclusion of amber being something in this. I thought that was really interesting, and it got me curious about some of the story and context and other developments that might have been happening outside of just the Jade technology. And I also really like, Boots, you brought up the gunslinger thing, right? And I was just talking about this on my stream after we looked over this. There's actually a lot of samurai films, particularly by Kurosawa, but several other creators around the same time who were very, very, very influenced in their cinematic work by westerns, and they realized that there were these parallels between the classic like wandering warrior kind of mythology and stories and tales, and the like lone cowboy kind of thing that was coming from the West. And so they started creating these fantastic films that were like a combination of different cultures. And so to have even in this with they call it a saber, but it is very much a katana.
Yeah.
The katana with the gun weapon, which again, I think just symbolically is a really fantastic conception of the modernization of Kantha that's happened since we last saw it.
This is
combination of
Magnificent Seven Samurai is what this is.
Yes, it's like the combination of the old and the new fused into this one weapon, and then to have something like this standoff where you thematically are charging something up to unleash this massive iconic blow. I love that. I love the feel.
I love it too.
The idea. It's great, and it's such a smart artistry that they put into it. We just have to see how it plays, I guess.
That's it. You're absolutely right. And I think so. I would just like to sum up my concerns in that it's I love the gunblade. I love the idea of it. I wanted it to be a professional mechanic like it is, but I didn't want all the drawbacks of having it. So like still have the F1. It's a kit that you swap to, and you could swap out, and it uses adrenaline instead of it not using adrenaline, essentially. But the way we have it now is my concern is too many removals of warrior traits, warrior
I
things
don't think the
about
traits
warrior.
will be impacted because I think
No,
it'll
sorry,
probably
I meant I didn't mean
skill.
specifically traits. I
Weapon
meant
swaps.
Oh,
Well,
the aesthetic.
there's some weapon
the things
swap
about
stuff.
a warrior.
Yeah.
Too many removal of things about a warrior. Also, so what do you guys think about just this is a concern of mine, but it's probably an unfounded concern. The fact that you are stuck with this weapon, the aesthetics of the weapon. I love the aesthetics of the weapon, but not everybody might. Do you think that in the future, ArenaNet will address this by putting gunblade weapon skins in the gem store, for example?
No.
No.
They don't with
They didn't
NG.
do it for
think
Necro
so.
Minions. They
They
didn't do
don't.
it for Reaper Scythe.
They don't with
Hollow.
they don't with
Okay.
NG. If they were ever
Okay.
going to do it with NG, I always talk about it because engineer is like, you know, you pull out this juggernaut hammer and you've got like the footfall, you've got the epic changing of the armor and depending on the light that is on you, the sword and the shield, and then you've got grenades, which is just a bag of balls.
Yeah, you're right.
Basically, or you've got the elixir gun, which is just literally a big, massive, you know, a thing. And it's you know, it's like they got rid of hobo-sex as well. Like, you know, it was like they got rid of the hobo-sec, man. I mean, I love that thing.
Yeah.
I guess talking about
it's unfortunate.
skins, the pistol, that's like its new weapon, but not
Yeah.
really. It's like the pistol's kind of an addition.
It's not the new
It's a-
weapon, but no, it's the new weapon, but not really. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Because we have this other thing.
They've essentially give them two new weapons, but how are we like?
Mhm.
I think the pistol, the 5th skill, is probably the most interesting skill that interacts with ammunition we have seen yet.
It's
The
good.
skill that consumes all the ammunition at
How
once.
much are you going to
gaining
use
more
this
benefit.
though? How much are we going to use this pistol?
I
playing
think
this?
I will use the pistol. And plus, you get Aegis application on the 4th skill, so it does allow you to play a mixture of like a little bit of defense with an Aegis application, but also like close range damage.
Aegis. Ooh, that's new. That doesn't happen on Warrior.
Not often, but I think because they're thinking about people not taking shield, and shield has such a
Yep.
strong block. If they were going to add another offhand, they probably wanted at least some defensive application.
Yeah, that 5th skill as well. I'm just going to read this. Dragon's Roar. Fire all barrels in your hand cannon. I like that they call it a hand cannon. To deal damage to foes in front of you. This skill consumes all ammo when fired. So it's very different to ammo in the strictest sense of the word that we've kind of, for every other skill there is in the game, I think, actually. Because I don't think there's any other skill which expends all ammo at once. It's just interesting that they've called it ammo, which I think is part of what Boots is saying in terms of some of the language they use. There's a lot of words meaning the same thing, but also that are completely different. So there needs to be some kind of, maybe some jiggling of that just to make sure players aren't ridiculously confused. I like the animation for this. It's an explosion as well, which is new for Warrior, which is very interesting. But it still does actually do the same kind of thing as ammo. So it does recharge every second, but then it expends it all when you use it, which is very interesting. How about that change in the kind of mechanic of ammo and how it's used? Is that a big deal, or is it like quite maybe something that we might even see in other future classes? Maybe. I mean, all of these kind of new mechanics and new things that we see are quite interesting, really, in all honesty, because it's like it opens up the future or even the present. You know, there might be abilities you might think on other classes where you're like, oh, I wonder if we can do it for that one as well.
I love seeing them play around with the application of their gameplay mechanics. Like when Heart of Thorns introduced different sizes and shapes of area of effect rings, I was really interested in like charge skills and a lot of other things. They tried to do break bars, which never ended up happening, which was very sad. I would have loved to have seen that. But having ammunition, having another expansion which expands upon a current system is just great to see. And then, of course, it leads it to the future. Of course, Barrier in the last expansion was a great introduction of a new mechanic.
I'm not sure if I like barriers still. So, I mean, I play Scrapper. I play Scrapper. So I actually a big appeal of a build that I'm actually making right now. I kind of like. It's kind of funny. I just kept using it. I like that little kind of knockback, but it's not a knockback at the same time. It's more of like you could even just use it to evade, even with a little bit of damage, to be honest. And there you go, Gunslinger. So Gunstinger. Random. Quickly step forward to your to strike your foe while reloading your gun. Restores 5 ammo. Restores ammo to skill 5. So it's actually pretty good. And it gives, this actually is pretty ridiculous. It gives 5 stacks of vulnerability, Aegis, and it restores your ammo as well.
I have a quick question. The those barrier utility skills?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did they say stuff like that you gain something when you go through them?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I didn't think so.
Okay. Because I was just thinking with this pistol, it makes you push back, go forward, push back. Yeah. It'll be funny if you go through the barrier.
Combo fields.
That would be super fun.
Back.
I mean, a few people mentioned when we were watching it, and I think it's actually smart, that some of those like right hand skills that I just didn't feel were totally coherent to me with the rest, I guess do provide you a bit of cover and or, ways to like block down or affect enemies while maybe you're trying to do your thing, try to get off that hit or, trying to power it up. So I think there's some stuff there, but I have to see. I think I just have to see how it all plays because it's funny. It's
skill name?
Huh?
Not augments.
Armaments, they're called. They're called armaments.
Armaments.
Utilities. So we've got, this is another thing that is going to be interesting to discuss as well. I mean, and this is something that I remember from Boots talking about it ages ago, and the rune sets as well. Like, armaments. Will there be a new armament rune set? Will there be a new augment rune set as well for the Catalyst Elementalist? Catalyst Elementalist. Wow. Elite Spec. It's just sometimes with the names, I'm like, wow. It's just like, are they going to come over with new rune sets? And then you've got armaments and you've got ammo and you've got all these words. But you're so right, Boots. Like with this, I'm just like flipping hell. some difference in, just take the A and the M out or something. I don't know. Just call it something else. But like, it is very much themed around that. I guess this kind of. It feels very much like an NG. I'm just
it's
like
an NG.
It does, isn't it? It feels like NG could have got this spec and just given them like a sword.
Well, they did get
great
this spec.
sword.
They got the Hollowsmith.
Yeah, kind of. But like, I mean, but like even just a great sword and like with the rifle combined or something. Like, I just could have been like, that could have been a thing. But like, I feel like this could have easily been it. But like, I kind of like. The utilities feel. The reason that I like the utilities in this is it does feel very PvP ballot, like PvP and World v World, very Roma World v World friendly, and very PvP kind of almost friendly as well. If you want to get away from targets, I was thinking about Lich form, for example, as well, being something that's very handy to block different targets. I was thinking about Ken as well in Raid specifically. Blocking those projectiles and not being a reflection either. So there's loads of fun stuff in there, but I'm kind of almost like I do often wonder how people feel about skills or utilities that might be a little bit too recycled. Like, is that there's an animation that's been recycled, but when there's literally
a different name. I feel like they could have been called gadgets. Or like,
I mean, they could have been. I mean, but like,
I mean, I'll be honest. I find the entire concept of these being a whole bunch of little baubles you toss around and little engineering things. I just found that very strange with the rest of this. I guess it's because this is the way that amber technology has been realized. So. Just like your blade is augmented with this, gun and this amber magic, then these other little gadgets also have amber magic. But to me, I just personally didn't. I would have rather just had it be something where like you literally, you do something with your gun or you do something else visually and you just use the amber magic and then that is what creates a barrier, as opposed to having all these little gadgety things, it just didn't feel like it worked for me with the idea of being this streamlined, gun saber warrior. And then you have your pockets full of Inspector Gadget tools. I don't know.
I think
So are we agreed though that well, do we want to talk about the utilities? Yeah, we're talking about the
that's what we're
utilities
talking
now,
about
right?
now.
Touch
Yeah,
on them in general.
I've got them.
Okay.
I mean, it's still, but like I said before, like how do you feel about almost the kind of recycledness of the fact that there's a blatant. It's literally the Guardian ability, but minus the reflect almost.
Reflection.
And there is an explosion. There is a different thing on there, but is that a big deal?
That's all over the game already. Like it's not a new thing that things are recycled. It's how you design games, right? Like you use your assets and you try to make them slightly different.
But like in terms of this specifically, like this is, I mean, and like I said, recycling animations and stuff is fine. Like I don't care about that. But like this is a very like one of these abilities specifically. It's very close to Wall of Reflection.
Kind of how I felt about the Greatsword 4 skill as well on Revenant.
It really is just a reused Wall of Reflection the only difference is that it doesn't reflect, which means it's even weaker.
Yeah, and there is an explosion. There's a damage aspect.
Is there a different cooldown?
Oh, it does do a little bit of damage.
I mean, it's an ammo, so it's
there you go. That's another difference.
And it is a difference, I guess, in this target. But it's still quite. Is it smaller? It looks like it's lower and smaller a bit. I mean,
so you're not excited by it?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really excited by it either, and I don't necessarily think it really adds anything to the momentum of the class. To me personally, I don't mind that it's reused. I mean, I think we have enough new stuff with this class that feels dynamic. I don't care that we have these things, but again, do I really feel like they make or break anything about what I'm excited about with this? No, it's sort of middle ground.
I think it's a real shame, touching on what Jabro made a video about his reaction to the trailer and was wondering if they were getting meditations. And just to bring that up, it is a real shame because meditations would have been so amazing on this elite spec with the Canthan theme of like being a more martial artist.
I completely forgot the Spellbreaker had meditations because I was just like, it didn't make any sense at all. So I just completely flaked on it. I made the video at 7:30 in the morning.
Oops.
But at the same time, I was like, Jesus. But then I went back on it and I was like, oh, wait a minute, we're getting a greatsword attached to a gun. Like we've already got like greatswords, so maybe we can just do the things, you know what I mean?
Can I just point out though, one interesting thing that is different about them as they are ammo skills. It says the count recharge for at least one of them was 30 seconds when I read the cool tip, but the cast cooldown was 1 second.
Yeah.
So you could put out two. You could have two out at the same time, and then if you cast that elite skill, you could have 4 out at the same time.
I think it repairs. I think it replaces. I don't know if it's going to add at the same time.
Why would it replace?
Because that would be ridiculous.
Why would it be ridiculous?
Ooh, because if you did have like 3 or 4 in World versus World, that would be a lot of reflex.
Because that would be a ridiculous.
They're not reflex.
No.
There is a lot of reflex.
I mean,
but just
block.
so much reflex.
But did he?
But they're not reflex.
Did he put
these
how many
specific
or block
abilities
are
are not
destruction?
Chat,
But
what
like
do you
damage
think?
and destruction.
Let's get the 5th person involved in here because this is a chat as well, a live chat and Twitch at the moment. If you're here live right now, tell us. He did put 2 on each top of each other. He actually,
go.
yeah, I think you're right. Actually.
Oh, there you go. And maybe that's
pretty
why there's
strong.
not a reflect ability on them. And then you could make yourself a little pen, and you could sit yourself right down in the middle of it.
So for 5 seconds, you're like,
Put 2 different abilities.
Which, I mean,
on top of
genuinely, that could be fun. No joke. If you can do that, that could be fun.
yeah.
PvP will be good. World versus World, that could be really strong.
And
your
just
builds.
ammo skills and that elite skill is kind of busted, right? So like just
Let's talk about the elite.
Recharge all of your ammunition skills. Already, I'm very scared about heal shouts because already they're very strong.
And this heal.
Having them twice as often is pretty strong.
Condition removal shots.
And the cooldown for that elite skill was only like 30 seconds, so that's ridiculous. Probably maybe they're gonna put it up to 120 seconds in PvP, hopefully. But
you'd have to run this spec though.
Yeah, you would run the spec.
I wouldn't.
But like, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it would.
You'd build around it.
You'd heal with it, but like, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. I'm not sure if it would be.
To
I'm
the
not sure
limit
if I'm worried
is
about
not
that.
an ammunition. The healing shout is not an ammo skill. So you won't have a super strong like
No, fine, that's fine. But all the other ones
But
are
every
ammo
other
skills.
shout if you have a healing trait on tactics or something to allow AoE healing when you use a
It's
shout,
like 2,500 healing.
it's gonna be a lot of group healing.
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of cool though. I kind of like that.
Same.
it's
The
ridiculous.
one thing I wanted for Warrior
It's
was
really
a bit
cool.
more group support and healing capabilities. Now, objectively, this
It's
probably
very
doesn't look like
random.
it could have some support capabilities, but just that one elite skill could open up a lot of shout support builds.
I
Yeah.
mean,
It double. There's
I
already
guess.
shout. There's already heal. Like shout. What's it called? Spellbreaker.
Mm-hmm.
And that was already for a while a pretty strong spec. Obviously you lose some stuff from Spellbreaker if you switch to this, but just doubling these shouts is like.
Would anyone really run this as like a pure heal build?
Well, nothing's
I
really
think they
pure anymore
could.
because at least in PvP you don't have pure defensive.
I think this is
amulets.
definitely a boots bad build. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, this
sure.
is like a
I don't
Wolf
mind.
World, maybe strike mission build.
I think this
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I
And then
could
with that
see it.
barrier trait.
I could see it having situational uses, especially to. I mean, I don't know exactly how this all plays out again, right? But when I'm thinking about the fact that this class, in order to get the BD DPS, has to, I mean, sacrifice so much uptime to just be static. It feels like having other things where you could, within the window of stuff that you're doing, and I mean, of course, you don't have to necessarily play that style where you're maxing out every single time just sitting there, but having other things where you can quickly turn them over and then like rapidly get stuff off to help your party or support your own efforts in what you're doing, and then stand still for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
That feels like it's not. It doesn't feel OP to me, I guess, is
Well,
what I mean.
the good news is, if you want to stand still for 5 seconds, you know what could really help that? 6 different instant activation skills that you could recharge, that you
Shake
don't
it
have to
off.
move while casting, and that heal you 2,000 times each time you heal them.
What is it?
There you
Shake it
go.
off on my target, vulnerability, might, and fury uptime.
Yeah.
This is going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
I agree. I've seen in chat a few people mentioning, how do you feel about the ammo stuff? I think the way this comes together works for me, and the ammo passives that refill ammo and stuff. I mean, yes, I think that's where it starts getting exciting about crafting for me. I do agree with everybody though, in that I think for many players, especially players who might not be familiar with Warrior, coming to Warrior, the big confusion about, wait, hold on, what ammo is affecting what? And are they talking about my amber bullet stuff, or are they talking about, I think that is super confusing. So
Yeah,
I wish some of that language were changed, because even I, looking at it, when I first saw it, I went, wait, hold on, are they saying that means I'll get like an instant recharge on that dragon ability, or do they mean that it's a little muddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's the worry I always have, especially about new players coming in. Like you said, I think that's important that things are just explained. I think there's already because Guild Wars 2, its foundation, its awesomeness is a lot about, the combat. And I think at times it is very easy to get confused about abilities and different energy bars and what's affecting what, as you say, and the different language, and the language, in terms of when we're thinking about, runes and stuff as well, and shouts removing conditions on different runes, and how, it all becomes a big boiling pot of confusion sometimes, honestly. It's a confusion, it's a condition in the game. But I come across this build, instant confusion, stacks of 25. But I think it's definitely, it looks fun and interesting. I think that hopefully with the feedback that is offered, that some people give that kind of feedback back to Arena, that because the thing is about when they look and when they're working on these things, it's just, they just understand how it works and it clicks for them like that. In terms of us getting our hands on it, hopefully we're just in a place to give them critical, awesome feedback where we're like, this plays well and it feels awesome, but I don't get it. Can you explain to me? And can you maybe word this differently so that maybe, the new player can understand what's going on, and like, you know, us as well, because it is a little bit confusing. I feel like it's going to be one of those things like we'll get it in our hands in a couple of weeks and we'll be fine, and we'll go over it, we'll watch guide videos, but we'll even produce our own content. And through producing a lot of content, when I'm looking at different new stuff, I often just kind of understand it more myself when I'm even creating content. Even if I've looked through it before and I've done all the research, I'm just like, I'm still a little bit lost. I go through it myself or on stream and you're just like, oh yeah, that kind of clicks. So I think that's always a really big concern. I think you can also go the other way and make it really, really too much, like too simplistic. And I think when specifically in this elite specialization stream compared to the last one, I'm just like, what? Like, what? The last three flipping things, the last three elite specializations were so simple in comparison. And I'm like, does the warrior player want this? Does the elementalist player want this? Does the Revenant player want this? Is this something that they want? And a lot of people have asked, you know, but based on what you've seen today, are you changing your main classes and your main specs? And I'm like, no. Actually, like, I wouldn't play any of these as my main at all. But I would have fun trying them out because I play every class in the game and in every mode. And I even would go to the point where I don't think I've really got a main. My main is just the one I know the best. It's not necessarily the one I play the most. I think we can move on to Elementalist though, because if there was gonna be, yes, indeed. If I was gonna go and play something else and try to specialize in another class specifically in terms of my own knowledge and creating builds and everything else, hell yeah, it would be this, because
hell yes,
it just looked. The trailer was probably the best trailer. Actually,
oh no,
I really liked the trailer. Like, just no, I mean, it's an opinion. It's not wrong.
Yeah. No, you said it was the best. That's an absolute.
Yeah. I should have added my opinion. But like, I mean, maybe the Harbinger was pretty good. Fine. But this, I think it was mainly this first bit where you get blown off the cliff. I was just like, Reddit's gonna go wild with this one. I think having the idea of it being a cloth-like class, having a hammer first was really, really exciting, and just everything in it. And it might have been the engineer in my head that clicked with the gyro kind of aspect of it as well, where I was just like, okay, you know, this could be quite cool, and maybe it might be a little, because it's hammer as well. I was like, ooh, scrapper, but an elementalist, what could that be? So I think that was probably where I went with it. In terms of when you saw the trailer and then you saw what it did in game, with CMC obviously discussing it and showing us all the bits and bobs, was it pretty close to what you were thinking? It sounds like some of you were pretty bang on with your predictions or what you felt was going to be going on with this class. Who wants to go first?
I'll do it. I'll go.
Go on.
Because I'm very excited. It actually did play
Doesn't
pretty
sound
close.
Like it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here, I'll
very
take it again.
sarcastic.
I am so excited for this. Which is genuinely how I feel. I was just trying to be cool, Jeb, because I've said some things today.
I mean, you can say many more things. If we're trying to don't rein it in on this podcast. God damn it.
Are you more excited about this or the BDDDE?
Yes.
gunplay?
Well, we all know what a big fan I am of BDD, DD, EBD, PS. But in this case, I am more excited about this. And I'm even more excited now that I have actually seen it in play. And I think that's an achievement to me, because there's a lot happening with this class, between the floating orbs around your body, between the switching between specs, between the wells but not wells, between the beautiful glowing animals, between the get up in there and slap them with your hammer. There's so much happening in one thing, and it is like a feast for the eyes and the soul, and I am just very into it. And it's not what I expected from Elementalist. And this idea, Jeb, when you were saying earlier, like, are these classes what players want? And it's funny to me because on one hand, I think that the wants of the population and the player base are super important. But I think that sometimes too, anticipating things that player bases might not even know that they want, and playing with ideas to progress beyond even just everybody's current understanding of the game is really important.
Yes.
And so these 3 classes to me feel like they really are experimenting and playing and pushing in a way that may not be what everybody wants. And did people want a hammer wielding elementalist? No. But am I sold? Yes. Like, I think the aesthetic is cool. I really enjoy the way it looks together. I think the flow looks wildly fun. And as a fan of the show Avatar: The Last Airbender, I just elemental animals and channeling, like, who taught the ways of the whole thing I'm super into. And I think it looks like, just looking at it, I get an idea of the flow. Just seeing it today, I got an idea of how I would want to play this. And that to me was a big achievement, because I think the class just is delightful. It looks like it's delightful. And maybe it won't be. I don't know.
What is it that what is it when you say delightful? Like, what do you mean? What does that mean to you? I guess is what I'm wondering.
I guess it's
a very counselor question to ask.
It's a really good question.
Like,
for me personally, delightful doesn't have to necessarily do with just numbers that I saw or like every detail on the traits, right? For me, delightful, to be delighted by a class, is to have a union of aesthetic and gameplay that come together to, I guess, excite my imagination in a variety of different ways. You know, not only how I would build, this, like not only how I would want to actually build and play the class from a more technical standpoint, but also in a way that I can almost feel, this is going to sound silly, but I am a role player. Sorry, everybody. I can feel a character coming to life through the aesthetic of a class. I feel like the class itself tells a story. So for me, that's what made this delightful, because there's a lot going on in it, but I feel like it works even now just watching on the screen, you know, having the little orb that circles around you, and then also having the visuals where you get those elements that then will whirl around you. And if you move fast enough, right, like if you're going through them, you can get all of them and then send them out with that hammer like you're whacking up. Like, I just think that the whole thing comes together in a way that delights.
Yeah, I like with the projection. I really like that small detail of just like, yeah, there's this thing, what was it called again specifically? What is it? It's
dragon JTech sphere.
Yeah.
The JTech sphere is projecting what though? What is it? It's technically a
They said that it is infused. So they said that these elementalists, if I'm remembering correctly, go around and harness and channel the like elemental powers and forces that are found in the world into and like charge these spheres with that element. And
you know what that means, though? That means that elementalists have gone around and sucked the energy from a turtle.
Yeah.
Killed that turtle.
I think channeling. Is a good word.
I don't think they murdered it. I think it's
just
rather
sucked all his energy. It's just a husk.
I think channeling it feels very Captain Planet-y rather than, you know, the death part.
I think you could go that way if you wanted to. I don't think there's anything that conflicts that as of yet. But to me, it felt more like how, I don't know, the dragons are almost physical manifestations. Like, oh gosh, like how, you know, certain things can like coalesce in nature into a physical form. It feels more to me like the elements themselves may have certain magical and physical expressions, and whether that's a cultural perspective, because, you know, these are the things that embody it. And so while I'm manipulating these elements, I see that based off of Kanthan culture, I imagine this particular entity and then it takes this shape.
They're all our Patronuses.
Yeah, or it's something specific to like the actual magical nature and the magic that makes up those creatures and how they express physically being made of that magic. I don't know. I don't think you killed anybody. I think they're just like fun pictures.
We'll leave it up to interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to imagine that somewhere every single time a player is using that ability, a turtle dies somewhere, then that's upsetting. I don't want to ever imagine that.
That does not delight.
That's not fun. Yeah, I just like that little. I like that projection from the the thing, which is what I'm calling it.
Oh, I did want to say
cool.
really fast, I see Technonewt in chat saying, could these elementals be the Celestials from factions? They did say on the stream today specifically that they are not the Celestials specifically, but that they...
Representations of, kind of?
They're like, yeah, they're almost more like
They're their
representations
mates.
of her.
They're their buddies from down the road. They're at the pub and they're like, do you want to come out for a bit? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'll come help you fight.
Okay, other thoughts. The same as Rook, really. It was just like, you know, general feeling, mechanics, how you felt about the classes as a whole. Creep, if you wanna pipe in and let us know how you're feeling about it. You know, you saw all the thing. Were you delighted as much as Rook? Are there other descriptors you would use as well?
I was not delighted.
Oh,
I was visually impressed.
okay.
Visually speaking, I love the new effects. This is what animations you can reuse. Spell effects with new specializations. That's what I would prefer to see. And in this case with the Catalyst, I have seen a lot of cool spell effects and it's all really cool. In terms of the way it is executed, for me, I am not as impressed. Originally, I would have liked to have seen the hammer be at least a ranged weapon because we haven't necessarily gotten a whole lot of range.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yes, I wanted the Revenant hammer on
I
Ellie.
did call you
Yes,
out earlier.
it's true.
Okay.
It's true. But seeing it go to melee, I was like, okay, we're going to do another melee situation. And then it was revealed that the air and the fire attunements are supposed to be mid-ranged and water and earth are melee. And I would prefer it if a weapon is consistent in its range mechanics.
And on top of that, on every single attunement, skill 3 is in between mid-range and melee.
It's a little strange with the skill 3, though I don't mind it as much because it's a little bit more AoE cleave if they're
you always say the max range of the character.
Yeah, but if they're too close to you, you're not going to hit.
It's kind of like old beta Jalis hammers when they were just too big. They were out too much. But
I remember.
The mixed range aspect, I didn't necessarily want melee, but if you're going to go melee all the way, because all of the utility skills, which are basically stances, I'm going to say it, they are extremely similar to stances, which we got on the Weaver. The new orb mechanic will always be placed at range. So even if you're fire or air, yes, you have that range for extra sustain, but why not make the entire kit revolve around that melee focus and give fire and air some extra survivability? So visually, I'm impressed, but...
Well, there is survivability on fire and air.
There is, like, for getting away. It's for creating some distance, but because everything else seems to be so melee focused, it's a little bit of that, like, we added this in because it's cool, but is it necessarily as woven in well with the rest of the elite spec? I haven't played it, but just from watching it, I was like, I would have actually just preferred if they went full melee. So that's where I'm a little not disappointed, but like, ugh.
You can be disappointed. I don't think you need to like. This is okay to be like sad about a thing. We can have these opinions and things like and feelings about things initially. Like, I love the honesty, you know. I prefer that, you know. If genuinely, sometimes I will be just, you know, kind of when I saw that, I felt like it kind of sucked, and that was, you know, just the feeling. And then after a while, you know, I was like, I played it, and then I felt differently. You know, you can have those ebb and flow and, you know, variations of emotions about things and gut reactions. I like those. Authentic and genuine thoughts and feelings. They're good. I like it when that comes out, Croof. Don't criticize yourself.
Yeah,
be honest.
You. I love the support. But in terms of visuals and traits, I think these are my favorite that we've seen.
Okay, so
wait, your traits were your favorite?
In terms of the just simplicity of it, I feel like a lot of times with elite specs,
I think you need it.
A lot of the elite specs traits are like just a page of words, and you're like, okay, I'll have to do all this thing. I like that they went really like, there's a lot of skills, but the traits themselves, you know what you're doing and you know what you're getting yourself into.
Do you think that's because of because of how complicated this could be, abilities and the
well, no, because they didn't really do that with Weaver. Weaver had some interesting. Weaver was pretty straightforward, but it was a little bit more complex than the traits that we saw here.
Fair play. But you,
But I like it.
do you like the utilities? Because they're a
No,
bit more
they're
simplistic.
stances.
Oh wow.
No,
They're
I don't
just
like them.
stances. Okay, right. You don't like the little shield, but you don't like the fact that you can interact the utilities with
That's
the
the
field.
coolest
Special
part.
mechanic. Yeah.
That is the
That's
coolest
where
part.
that's the
Yeah.
interactivity, right? Like that's the combo feel. So again, if you're listening, because this is going to be separate from the show where we watched the guild chat as well. We're talking about all the elite specializations that got revealed. The utilities basically pair up with this. Oh god, what's he called again? I keep forgetting.
Jade Tech Sphere.
JTech sphere thing that we're throwing out on the floor.
JTS.
It's the F5, yeah. So it's an AoE field, and we use the utility, which is an augment. And basically, it's a combo of its own almost. Like you use this utility with this, and it does more healing, or you get a little shield. But when you use the utility outside of the field, but when you use it inside the field, the shield is stronger and you gain barrier, right? And so it changes the utility and the use of that. So I like that tech because that tech is not something we've really seen that much of, in all honesty.
Yeah.
It is new tech, or it's tech which is given to mobs, or it's tech with some stuff, maybe you could say, in terms of very unique combo fields or mechanics within classes. But that feels very unique for the Elementalist. I really actually love this. I think this is something that they're going to use a lot in the future. I think it's really, really good. I think this is actually one of the things which impressed me the most, other than the spinny things, which is what I'm calling them. Which is the third skill on hammer. But yeah, okay, Cruz. So general summing up of Cruz's feelings and emotions, kind of like it. Also
Visually impressive.
Visually impressive.
The way it plays, not exactly sure.
Okay. And then the boots. Boots and boots.
Yeah. So mixed feelings again, I think. I didn't have the same concern as Kroof about the melee-ness of it. I don't mind that it's half melee, half mid-range. That can be interesting. But that's, again, just the hammer. You don't need to use the hammer. So you could use other weapons with this spec.
That's very true.
Also, but one of my concerns, for example, is about the hammer, is that I feel like, unlike all the other elite specs so far, 90% of the interest of this spec is the weapon, the hammer.
Yeah.
Like, because you get 20 new skills, it's very cool. All the new skills are very cool. And if you decide you don't want to use the hammer because you don't want to be melee, for example, you lose 90% of the interestingness of this elite spec. The only additional thing you get is a well. Did they really go over how the energy system works for that, by the way? I didn't really catch that properly. Like, he was charging it up with some of his skills.
Yeah, you can charge it up faster through traits and some of the skills.
Yeah. It's attacks and maybe a bit of passive.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trait stuff as well.
Do you know if it was like it didn't have to be hammer skills, right?
No, I don't think so.
No, okay. All right. And were there any traits besides passive that affected that in any way? Do you know?
We'll have to go through the traits in a sec, unless they're on Reddit already.
Yeah. Anyway.
It might be.
So yeah, really the only interesting thing besides the hammer is that well, and the well's kind of interesting, except it's not a well. It's not defined as a well. So, but it is kind of interesting. I did like that. You're right. I really did like that one trait that said when you do a combo finisher, when you do a combo, you get a aura. That was really cool because that'll affect some other things. They took away. There was a trait like that in the past. They took it away when you did a combo finisher. It was doubled for warriors, but they took that away, unfortunately. So I'm glad that they have something like that in here now. But yeah, I guess that's my main concern, is that because most of the interest I have for this spec is about the hammer, what happens if I want to play a different weapon?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about those weapons now.
I wanted to talk about that a little bit because if you're going to be playing staff or scepter, you're going to really be relegated to a boon support playstyle because you're not going to have those melee interactions with utility skills. You're going to be placing the well or the sphere really
Yeah,
out
you'll give
range,
group quickness with the well.
which kind of
Which
like
is
goes
cool.
into a boon support playstyle
Yeah.
a little bit, but I don't know. Because I can't. How do you use the staff and place down the sphere in melee, but then you have to use your utility skills
You
within
have to use the blast,
sphere
yeah.
area when you're using a ranged weapon? How do you balance?
What was the range
doesn't-
of the? What is the range of the
Oh, that's a good
jade
question.
thing? Well, that's what matters, isn't it? Because you essentially, if you're at if you want to play max range with a staff, or if you're playing in PvP, I mean, you're not playing at max range with a staff anywhere, really, are you? Other than roaming, probably. I mean, in World v World, you're playing on the top of maybe on the top of the armaments in World v World. I mean, I'm not sure many people play at more than 600 range, if I'm honest, most of the time in any mode, really. I mean, you think about raids.
When you're raiding, I mean, you're all staff.
Yeah,
You're
when you're
all-
in PvP, you're fighting in close quarters. There's only one map where you're really playing at maximum range, where ranges are horrible, and because I hate that map, like is Colosseum. That, that's one map. there's other straight pathways. So like when you play range stuff, it's always very interesting when we talk about range, especially when players get upset about range as well, because there's many occasions where we barely play in range, and the option is obviously awesome. But with staff, like, and if anyone can find the range of the F5, that would be very, very helpful. You can bring up the blast obviously on stuff on Earth. For example, Dagger, you've got a load of blasts in the field as well if you want to use it in melee range as well. I think you're going to find that actually, I know what Boots is saying about the hammer, because that spinny, the different elements spinning around you feels like a very, very important part of this whole build, and it's melding together. Like, I feel like if you're going to bring a dagger or a focus into or whatever combination, that third skill should be changed when you're in this elite specialization. Like, you are able to offer that kind of similar effect, maybe potentially.
Yeah,
It's
interesting that it's relegated to one weapon skill, one weapon choice. That's kind of even almost a spec defining functionality.
It does.
When I saw that, I said this could be
That's really
its
nice.
profession, unique profession mechanic change.
Yeah.
Flatline. They didn't really need the sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I wonder if they will. We didn't really actually get to see anything else with this, any of the other weapons. I wonder if with feedback that might be something that even consider, because it is sort of strange. You'd think that there would even be some kind of passive you could take or something for other weapons where you would still get to use the spinnies.
Yeah.
But,
Ooh, spinnies,
it's this fine line, because on the other hand, again, personally, but this is just me, I don't necessarily have a problem with them putting the new weapon front and center. But I do agree that, like, if it is something that does seem to be like a major draw to the class, that since we are designing for a game that does have multiple weapons, you need to have some way to still make that, like, feasible, or, something that you can do. I mean, I don't mind. I'll play hammer, but
Yeah, Ellie doesn't have weapon swap either, so that's like another aspect you have to consider. They're restricted to one weapon in combat.
My God, please use your mouse and put it over the top of the flipping F5 ability. Someone said it hasn't got ranged in it, like it hasn't got range on it, and I'm just like, surely there is.
He went over the tooltips too quickly, I think.
Yeah.
But
I can't find them. Like, no one's put them out. Like, normally someone has by now. So I'm like, what? Like, maybe you're right.
So just to let you know, Jib, I don't think I'm going to be able to go over all the traits tonight.
No,
I don't think we're gonna go over the traits. I think we'll probably just end it. What we can do is we can, if people are up for doing this next week, we can do vague impressions. But I think next week we can talk about if people want to do this, we'll do LightBringers plays, and we'll play all the classes, and we'll talk about them. If people are available and they want to do that, we can do that. I will be doing that nonetheless. Whether or not it's with you three is up to you. It will be a thing. But yeah, we can definitely do that next week. So there's no pressure to talk about it now.
Impressions, utilities, traits.
Yeah, it's it's definitely. I really, really want to know like what the range on that is, because I think that's an important question. I love this, like, I don't know, but like, did you talk about the utilities and the rest of it? Like, did you enjoy like that part of it?
I think I'm a little bit with Kroof on it. It's a little underwhelming. They're kind of like stances. I like the functionality that they augment the well ability, but again, the well ability is a little bit not that interesting to me either. It's a well that you get. It's kind of interesting, but
it's not a well.
Yes, but it's not a well also.
Yeah.
So no Chronomancer runes function synergy there. But no, it's all interesting, but not like blowing me away kind of interesting.
This almost feels like simplified Weaver.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I guess so. Third skill. I mean, Weaver changes that. I like that third skill being something that changes.
Instead of it changing the third skill, every third skill is the same.
Yeah. It's almost it's like, yeah. I get that kind of similarity. It's
what was the elite skill again?
This was when it's a stance that when you use attacks, or when you do something, it reduces your skill cooldowns by a second.
Oh, on your weapons.
Oh.
Yeah. Which is what Rebound used to do in the betas when Tempest
wasn't it the
released.
stat increase
what can you
as
do
well?
with that with your other weapon sets, for example, let's say?
What was the stat increase on traits? Was that Revenant or was it this one?
It's this one as well.
Oh, good lord. Yes, it was. It was the 10%, and it increases your stats by 10%. Yeah, and then 20%. But that was the energy, wasn't it? We'll go through that in a bit. Yes, okay. Yeah, the visually, it's very awesome.
I mean, that's something that you could think about, Kroof. Like, if you don't want to stay at mid-range the whole time instead of melee, you could pop that elite. I don't know what the cooldown is on the elite, though, so who knows. But you could pop that elite and just swap between fire and lightning quickly, and you could use the 3 skill and maybe be able to get it off each time because the cooldown's reduced.
Interesting. I think there's definitely this. I was talking about this in PvP of this whole class. This specifically with the hammer could be a really, really good like side noder. But then like the longer fights go as well, and like thinking about that sustain of this build and your stats building up over time, as well as your healing and your protection and all the things that are good in this build, like quickness and everything else, like you're going to be a beast. This thing's going to be...
I'm excited to see that.
It's going to have I think this is going to have a skill cap. Though to be that powerful, I feel like there is going to be a good skill cap on this. Which is what I'm kind of happy about.
Too strong, actually.
I feel like this could be very strong. You're right. I do.
Yeah. Weaver does it so. Weaver's already very tanky, but you have to be really, really good.
They're not in meta though right now.
This is like simple Weaver, like good barrier defense.
This is the thing though. Until we see the others, until we see the last 3, like I'm always like I'm just wondering about what would be able to counter it, because if I'm a Reaper or something like that, you could probably decimate this thing because just taking away all those boons, but the Reaper's just crazy. It's just
that's right. One of the stances, isn't it like a 3-second block or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Block with barrier. And then you have a stun break, which is also super speed and it gives you endurance. Oh.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted tanky Ellie.
Ellie's always tanky. Yeah. I mean,
didn't we already have tanky Ellie though?
It's already a thing.
But Ellies don't like playing anything else except Glass Cannon Berserker.
But then also Tempest could be tanky.
They're all tanky. So... Yeah. They're all tanky. In their own ways. Whether or not it's healing, pumping up healing, or whatever.
I'm not that worried about getting another tanky type thing, especially one that might be a little bit more hands-on, accessible for people, to kind of just get and learn and run. And I think, at least because I mostly do PvE and raids and stuff like that, it always does seem like, those few times when you really do need some sort of tank, it's like the same one person that just gets forced to do it all the time. And usually they're a Chronomancer. And so it'll be nice to see some playstyles that I think that might, again, expand what we have on that in the game. And I think this class does so many other things really interestingly as well, too.
Yeah, it's a classic Ellie.
Yeah.
It's a classic Ellie in that I, again, will run Celestial gear with it.
Yeah, it looks like that, though. You've got the power damage in there, you've got the burning, bleeding, all the other different bits and bobs. Why not?
10%, 20% to all stats increase.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting set of 3 this time around.
Yeah, I think these 3 are, while we have a lot of thoughts, and I'm sure we'll have even more after the beta and after we can actually play them, these 3 to me, just the set of them, they're different and interesting, and I think that love them or hate them, they bring something kind of new and intriguing to the table. They had so much variety between the 3 of them too. I mean, compared to the last set, which have variety, but again, we've kind of talked about how they seem to be themed around that fundamental kind of mobility, or these different sort of design mentalities, whereas these 3, they just feel kind of wacky, and I honestly really enjoy that. I really enjoy that they are shaking things up, and that we have a lot of questions that I think will only be answered by playing them.
Yeah. So somebody in chat said the 20%, the trait to get 20% on top of Sally for all the traits and stuff is huge. I agree. And it'll be fun to be like the perfect celestial person using this, because then you will have like, I don't know, 70% boon duration base and 70% condition duration base.
Are you going to be taking divinity runes plus another?
I mean, you just gotta
all stats and max health. Oh, divinity is going to be sick on this.
Thing that'd be awful.
But the issue for me is that it's still just a little boring, the traits for me, because it almost all of them go towards that thing. Like they're all kind of like with was it the virtuoso or the something else? It was the virtuoso, where everything went towards blade stocking for the grandmasters.
Oh, okay.
And for this, it's like 5 different traits go towards elemental whatever buffing, and then it's just a little boring.
I liked. Okay. I agree. Certain interactions can be better, but I enjoyed especially in the Grandmaster, where it's like auras give you stability. I think that
that was great.
The balance area I would like Guild Wars to be at is like Grandmaster traits that aren't like you do 5 different things, but like you do one thing really well.
I think all the aura ones were interesting to me.
Yeah.
All the other ones not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that they're not strong traits. Like they could be strong traits. It's just they're not that interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're gonna start to kind of slow things down a little bit. Maybe just as we're winding towards the end of the night, people, play the slow tunes, get everyone a little bit, on the way out the door.
4 days till beta.
Yeah, not long. It's a pretty ridiculous next couple of weeks for MMORPGs.
Oh,
actually, I think later today, as Rook probably knows, I think there's something with Final Fantasy 14 today.
A little something, yeah.
Yeah, there's New World in a week and a bit as well, just after the Guild Wars 2 Elite Specs beta is out as well. It's good timing. And
Overwatch
the DX11 and what? Sorry.
And Overwatch stuff next week.
Oh, good lord! So yeah, there's a
games are hype.
Lot of gaming at the moment. Generally, I think again, this has definitely been a different Elite Spec combination of. I think they've definitely put these together for for a reason. It's just weird. I'm like, we've got all the medium classes in one batch. It's just
it'll be
odd.
fun.
It will be fun.
It'll be exciting.
Still got to wait a month. That makes me a bit sad, but it's okay because I play engineer as my main class, my baby.
We'll get the teasers earlier.
We will get the teasers. I will be engineer will be the last one I watch.
I think it's gonna be Thief. I'm calling it now. Thief.
Thief is gonna be the last one. Okay, fine. Does medium armor really mean anything there? What do you mean? What are you talking about? It means everything.
I heard that.
They're coming for that commenter.
They're coming.
It does mean something.
Guys. But yeah, generally overall, I think there's some very new, interesting, and exciting some stuff. I think that
it could all be very fun.
It will be all very fun. It will just I think minds are going to be changed a little bit when we get hands on these things again. I think. Just go and play the beta. Go and play it. Go and have fun. Go and enjoy the things. Test it to the max. Give the feedback that's important, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what they need, and that's why we're having a beta as well, is you just getting used to all things and enjoying yourself. But it's been an amazing podcast. Post Guild Chat. If you want to go check out the Guild Chat version that we did just before this, there will be a link in the description as well. And we'll be back with the podcast with the Lightbringers Plays. It's been a long day. Next week. It's always a long day for me. And we'll be able to play them and we'll tell you what we think. And then people will be able to say if they're still delighted or if they're still bored with the traits or if they're still excited by little things flying around their heads or BDD, DDD, DPS. And
So many Ds.
So much D. And also we'll talk... What do you do it? Where do you do it? And how much do you do it? Rook, tell us about yourself before we end the podcast today. Where can we find you? All the things.
Yes, hello, I'm Rook. I'm only most of the time inappropriate. The rest of the time, I pretend to be family adjacent. So sorry, everybody.
Family adjacent.
We do our best. We try to keep it as family adjacent as possible, but sometimes the spice goes free. You can watch the nonsense while it happens over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv, Bird of Chess. You can find me on YouTube, Bird of Chess as well, including the pre-show 40-minute summary of Guild Wars 2 that I did before the End of Dragon's First Look livestream. So if you've been curious about that or you want to share it with other people or get caught up or refresh on various parts of the story, you can check it out. And you can find me Twitter, all the places. Jeb, I blame you for getting me to say you can find me blank, 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 all the places.
All the things, all the places. Yeah, I know.
Doing all the things.
I'm sorry. You can do all the things. Do all the things is a very, very reputable way of saying go and do all the things because you should all the time. Please do all the things. Today, everyone, all of them. It may take you a while, but it's worth it. Boots, tell us all the things.
Yeah, all the things. Find me World of Enders on YouTube, also here, host of Ask Mom podcast, sometimes other places. I want to say one last thing about the Catalyst.
Good lord.
That is that although I like expressing my concerns about things, the Catalyst actually looks like a lot of fun. And now that I'm like thinking about all the traits I read and thinking about all the things about this Catalyst, like the fact that there's a combo trait and there's so many things that affect Celestial gear essentially and make you want to make the most Celestial thing ever, it feels more and more like this was like a message to me to try to make the best Celestial combo thing I could make. It's just like saying, just do it.
So is this your goodbye then? Because it's supposed to be telling us about where we're going and not telling us about the rest of the elite specialization.
Let's do another 15 minutes on the traits.
Good lord.
Anyway,
you were the one that said you needed to go.
That's me.
Go and follow Boots. All the links will be in the description below. Thank you very much for joining us. Kroof!
Hi.
Tell us the things.
Hello, everyone. My name is Grove. I do a lot of YouTube stuff, and I do some Twitch stuff. I've been having a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on. Not coming on to my podcast. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Wow, Kroof.
I'm pretty sure this is your podcast.
Don't worry, Kroof. I mean, you know, I know you've been here a lot.
I'm taking over. I now own 51% of this company. No, but yeah, thank you so much. You can catch me on YouTube and Twitter and Twitch and all the places. And stay beautiful, everybody. I don't know how to end it.
Also, it was so good to see your beautiful faces again and be back with everybody.
We missed you.
I missed you.
We have missed you as well. And Kidoki. Everyone...
I also missed you.
There you go.
I was trying to convey that just by going like this, but...
Doing a little, like, I don't even know what this is, like award-winning hand gesture.
That's a self-hand-holding 5 thing.
I'm alone.
It's all the things in one hand motion. Anyway, we should go now. Or mostly me. Okay, so everyone, if you do want to check out this podcast, don't forget anchor.fm /JebroUni. Obviously, you can check it out on YouTube. You can check the VOD on Twitch. Also, please take the time to go into the description below where you can find everyone's links to pre-purchase the End of Dragons expansion as well as the other expansions as well. If you have heard a creator that you would like to support today, please go to their channels, chuck them a follow as well, get involved in their communities. They're all very, very awesome. All very unique in their own way as well. I have been Jebro today, the host and creator of life, or just this podcast. Sorry, life in this
A
podcast.
massive revelation to drop at the end of the podcast.
I mean, I
Jabro.
thought I would go for it. See if anyone believes me. Just the Lightbringers podcast, which is on weekly. Lightbringers plays next week. Go listen to all the things. Twitch.tv/JabroUni. I am very busy in life at the moment. Trying to be a counselor and not getting paid for it is a tough life, but it's okay. It is something I enjoy doing and love very much. So if you do want to support the channel or anything I do, please consider supporting the podcast at the very least by chucking a follow in the various places. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and be safe out there. It's an awesome place to be, but there's lots going on at the moment. I appreciate you faces very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Lightbringers podcast. Bye for now.